So some analysis now with our guests, journalist Amir Oren, longtime expert on defense and policy, Fadi Essmaeel from International Institute for Counter-Terrorism, and Loay alShareef, peace activist and expert in Arab-Israeli relations from Abu Dhabi. Fadi, let me start with you. What's your take on what's been happening in the past 3 days?
Well, I think that what we have seen here is a very interesting realignment of the power dynamic in Gaza. So far, it seems that Hamas is the one who is the most benefiting from it, which can change very quickly. But at the point, you had a local organization almost starting a new catastrophe for Gaza that they're not responsible for. You had the Israeli side cleaning up for them. And they are coming out as almost as the adult, as the responsible adult. Hamas, they are now the responsible adult that are trying to bring the situation into some sort of a calming down. Many people compare this to May last year. I think the comparison is not at all in its place. Let's not forget there was a component last year of the Haram al-Sharif, the Temple Mount. A completely different situation, a completely different scenario, a completely different storyline.
Maybe because Hamas was not involved this time.
Well, it started. I want to remind you, the whole thing last year had, from the beginning, those religious overtones. There's Haram al-Sharif, which, like on a dime, can change the whole dynamic. And that was a big danger in the last 3 days, that something happens there, somebody does something, doesn't matter who, and all of a sudden, from Israel doing something with a small organization in Gaza, it will turn out in something that the whole world pays attention to. And I think that Israel was walking a very thin line, and actually, frankly, also Hamas and the other players, biding their time, trying to be as calculated in every move so that it doesn't go there. That was the main thing for me. It's what actually did not happen. We did not, thank God, see any problems on the mountain, and that is the key. However, again, I think that at this time, if we look at it from a game theory standpoint, Hamas is a little stronger today in one way. And the voices that say, why didn't you intervene, actually way fewer. If you actually listen to the Arabic language, social media, most of the people do not want Hamas to get into the game. The people of Gaza cannot take any more wars.
Loay, how is it from your perspective?
Well, first of all, Jacob, I would like to express my deep condolences to the families of the innocent Palestinians who died in Gaza. You know, a Palestinian life, an innocent life, whether it was Palestinian or Israeli, matters. One innocent life is too many. So, to be very honest with you, I was not so happy with the escalation that happened the past few days, and I'm so happy and I rejoiced when I heard that Egypt successfully brokered a ceasefire between Israel and the Islamic Jihad. Now, there has to be some sort of differentiation here between the terrorist groups like Islamic Jihad and Hamas and the innocent Palestinians who are living in Gaza and who are the victims, and they should we should all know that these people have the right to prosper, thrive, and live in prosperity, security, and peace. And I believe, Jacob, that this will continue. It will never stop unless two things happen. First of all, the Palestinians have to end their division because they are divided, and they have to select, elect, or appoint a leader, a courageous leader like Anwar al-Sadat of Egypt, that would dismantle the militants in Gaza, and that would say, let's engage in a long-term negotiation with the Israelis to achieve a permanent peace, because a permanent peace is the only solution. And Israel is not going to be thrown over the sea. Now you have to live with it. Israel is there and will stay, and it becomes stronger even more and more. And also from the Israelis, Jacob, that they have to know that the escalation would damage the what we've earned in the Abraham Accords in the long term. Now, if you see the reaction that happened in the past few days, there was a call for de-escalation by the UAE, but there was a state, which is a kingdom, Bahrain, which is a member of the Abraham Accords. It condemned it. It used the word for the first time. condemning the Israeli attacks on Gaza. Now, I see, to be very honest, that people to people is the best benefit out of this Abraham Accords, and I want to maintain this benefit for long. And escalation will never help us in this goal.
Right. Amir, you've seen so many rounds happening in Gaza. Is this one different in any way? And does it in any way make a difference when you look at the big picture?
It's different than what we used to see a few years ago, but not different than what we saw in 2019 after a previous leader of PIJ in Gaza was killed in a targeted assassination. And the dynamics can be called either the Hamasization of PIJ or the Arafatization of Yahya Sinwar, because what Hamas has done to the Palestinian Authority or Fatah in the mid-1990s is what the jihad is trying to do to Hamas now. Each time there is a representative group subject to the accountability and the sovereignty or semi-sovereignty duties of whoever takes care, even as a municipal boss in Hebron or Ramallah or Gaza City, there is another more radical group, and then in time this radical group of course becomes middle-aged, middle class, and there's another one. That's the logic of the revolution. But what Israel can learn from this latest exchange, of course there are many professional lessons regarding intelligence, military, and the like. But it can learn and actually relearn the lesson that Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, he is not the overall leader of the Hamas movement, but nevertheless, he is the sort of prime minister of Gaza, is an interlocutor that Israel can speak with. Sinwar said so expressly a few years ago. He is willing, when he is weighing the various and contradictory constraints of ideology, resistance. Of course, Hamas is Mukawama. Mukawama, resistance is its middle name. But nevertheless, now
You're seeing a change.
Yes.
Let me go on with this point, Fadi. Maybe Hamas is changing a little bit?
I think we're changing. Everybody's changing, and I love the way my teacher, Amir Oren, says it. Of course, think about this again. Hamas, I started with saying Hamas now is the adult, the responsible adult, the same force that basically brought down the Oslo process in the mid-90s. The Oslo process going much better, would have gone much better without Hamas. And we have to remember this. As far as the revolutionary zeal, we all feel it over the years, how it kind of calms down. There's also, beyond the emotional side, there's also foreign money coming to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. We know where it comes from, and that is exactly the effect that it's trying to create. That is said, I want to also say a few words about Mr. Loay from Dubai, and that makes, he actually making a point that I made in the past, that normalization does not work against the Palestinians, actually, because in the end, now that the government of Israel has to take into account what Bahrain says, has to take into account what UAE says.
So let me ask Loay, because we're short on time, Loay, maybe that's an opportunity for the Gulf states to somehow, cash in on the Abraham Accords and take the leap to get more involved in this. What do you say?
Yes, I totally agree with your guests, and I believe that this is what's happening. But with the escalation, things cannot really move this direction. I tell you, to be very honest, Jacob, I've been following the social media in the Gulf states for the past 2 or 3 days, and it was negative. Of course, we know that Israel is defending its civilians. The Iron Dome is protecting Israeli lives. That's absolutely great. And we are against terror groups like Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. But the Palestinians should not pay. The Palestinian people, the Palestinians, the normal Palestinian who wants to secure a job, who wants to take his children to school, who wants to live who wants to prosper, they have to have hopes. The Palestinians have to have hopes, and we should stand for them, the Palestinian people, I say. Hamas, I just disagree with your guest when he said that Hamas is changing. Hamas was very wise in this in this recent operation by not getting itself involved with the Islamic Jihad. That is given. That is, I give this to Hamas, but Hamas has to abandon the ideology of throwing Israel or annihilating the Jewish state and the Jewish people from living in their ancestral homeland 3,000 years ago until now. Not going to happen. If Hamas changes that, I believe Hamas would be radically changed.
We have about a minute, Amir. When is the next round?
First of all, we have to see whether we are headed towards a three-state solution. Because if Hamas is becoming more and more state-like in Gaza, there is no unification in the cards. It will be, again, more responsible, more measured, and the next round may be years away.
Oh, okay. We'll take this into consideration. Thank you very much, all of you.